joining us. Welcome to the KLE table right here on KNews Alerts TV. My name is Tamara Patience, and I am joined by Emmanuel Bosire. We have not seen you in a long time, so welcome back. 100%. And of course, Emmanuel helps us analyze as well as understand things that are happening out here. Obviously, on the KLE table, we talk about matters politics and matters governance, who did what, where, when, why, and how. And as usual, we never fail to mention the question, how much more or less is the taxpayer going to incur, or how much more or less is the government going to spend? So feel free to interact with us on the current state of Kenya, what people are talking about, what Kenyans are fighting for, what the opposition is fighting for, what the government is trying to work towards. Now, we have seen, of course, through a Gazette notice that the president will actually deliver his first State of the Nation address. That is since taking over power in September 2022. And that is the State of the Nation address is going to be happening on the 9th of November 2023. That is next week, of course. And Emmanuel, bringing you in now. Of course, we have seen Kenyans complaining a lot about plenty of things. What are some of the agendas, some of the things that you feel or you think we are looking forward to, or we as Kenyans should look forward to in this particular State of the Nation address?
One, you've spoken about complaining. I was wondering if there's a difference between complaining and demanding. You find out that we Kenyans and Africans have large to those who we thought that are going to be helping us. One of the things, or one of the reasons we conduct elections is that it's not a formality that after every 5 years we come and go. But one of the things that we have elections in a democracy is that we elect or vote in leaders who we think and believe are going to better our lives and improve. They found other leaders taking us to the next level. Now, this has been happening even from ancient times, biblical times, kingship times, even at the modern times. So when you compare the demand rate of Kenyans and the demand rate maybe for Rwanda, for instance, is going to be different. Because the residents of Rwanda as a country now, they have seen the importance of voting in good leaders. See what Paul Kagame is doing in Rwanda. He's transforming their country. To even see what's happening in South Africa, in as much they could be having other advantages. Rwanda, in less than 30 years, in 1994, 1995, Rwanda was in a very bad state. But when you compare it with Kenya at the moment, now you even wonder which is Kenya, which is Rwanda. So when we bring our leaders into accountability, we will improve as a nation. The policy formulations, we have the policy players in our country. How do they help us? And how do they help influence Kenyan citizens to act upon our leaders and even demand on them? Now, one, we voted in, we have a president who is well known for unfulfilled promises. Now, before elections, he was all over saying that we will do, we will allocate billions to this sector. We will allocate this big amount of money to this sector. We want to revive this sector that has gone down. So until now, in as much we were going to expect the state of the address, Ruto'S one was a media thing. It was not the state, it was only the media that wanted to act upon the government. But it's now coming and went to address us. Now here we expect him to tell us that since I took office, dear Kenyans, I expected things would be easy on me. When I went there with my friend, the deputy president and the cabinet, we found out that we had a huge public debt. Give it the figure, the amount that inherited as a public debt of our country. And this, we have reduced this public debt to this amount. We went in finding new systems in place. We found maybe the CBC curriculum being initiated with a huge expenditure. We never foresaw where this money could come from. But we have managed in this first year to help students continue their studies. For instance, say that we came in and found the issue of help amount, the university fee, being a challenge to almost every Kenyan. But through informed decisions, through the public and private sectors, we agreed and reached a point whereby we have moved on to sponsoring all the university students. We'll be talking about the health sector. Dear Kenyans, the health sector that was under four big agendas that we were talking about the Jubilee government, and then talk about employment opportunities in the manufacturing sector. Telling Kenyans, Kenyans, we promised that we want to employ youths in various projects. Now, we've come in through maybe the public service and delivery management. We've been able to reduce or to increase the employment rate from this to this. And in the coming 2 or 3 years, we are going to expect an increase in the employment jobs. The president has been talking about employing people, skilled and unskilled laborers out of our country, partnering with Saudi Arabian countries, Middle East countries, talking about the Europe, many countries that need Kenyans to go and work there. Through this program, we have enabled to reduce the unemployment rate. But again, someone will ask herself, why don't we provide the same jobs in our country? Now, talking about manufacturing and housing, maybe. Manufacturing and housing are the main employment sectors in any country.
Yeah.
So, in manufacturing, we talk about industries. We talk about revolutions around industries, raw materials and being involved, processing, manufacturing, and even distribution. So when we talk about those, we're talking about big and great picture of many job opportunities. Talk about maybe the housing sector in itself. Housing as a sector itself can employ millions of Kenyans. The president is noted to have spoken some day back that instead of going to have vijana mtaani sweeping the streets, we're going to transfer them into housing projects. So something that has not matured up to the moment. So it's promise upon promise. So to that sector, the government will be talking about it as some of the milestones that they have managed to achieve as per 1 year to them. But again, they have also he gives a promise. He says we will now give 3 billion to border sector to revive it. Now, an economist will ask himself, one, we don't have money. Two, where are we going to get it from? I don't know if you're getting such. And he comes again and says, one of the reasons that we have not managed to deliver to you Kenyans is the Ukraine and Russian war. And then someone is asking, does this war affect only Kenyans? What's happening in our neighboring countries? What's happening in Rwanda? Are they not affected by the same war? What's happening in South Africa? Now, when you talk about a promise, upon unfulfilled promise, you're reducing your respect even to Kenyans. Kenyans now will be get fed up with you, Mr. President. They'll be, in fact, if we go and maybe allow Infotrack to do the performance sector for the president, we'll find out that many of those who voted in Kenya Kwanza government, if given a chance, they might not vote in again Kenya Kwanza, based on the ground of unfulfilled promises upon another promise. Now, let's talk about the recent one that we've seen. He's been talking about the housing projects. How many times is he going to sing about this song? That we want to have housing projects? How long, Mr. President? You sang this 10 years with President Uhuru Kenyatta while you were the deputy president. You initiated many projects as the deputy president, maybe to counter the president. Under the administration for Jubilee, many projects were not launched by the president. Many projects were launched by the deputy president. Then, who is our president now? So, Deputy President William Ruto, now President Ruto, started many roads. He was running every weekend. He's in a particular region, saying we have started this amount of kilometers road that's going to connect this region with another region. And then somewhere when things went wrong, when President William Uhuru Kenyatta then realized the game of Ruto, he had to act up. He brought in the handshake brother. They had to stop many projects that President Uhuru Kenyatta thought was to help the Jubilee administration. Now, when that said and done, now you're the president. You were the deputy president. So shifting the attention to completing these projects will not be a problem. Now, this will arise and give us another problem about corruption. You start a project, a money is allocated to it, there's no accountability, you pocket the same amount of money, you use it in campaigns, now you are the president. How are you going to finish these problems? You know, one of the problems again happening is that you cannot unite people whom you divided. It's an impossibility. He divided Kenyans on the basics that we have hustler and dynasties. We have them versus us. Now, how are you going to unite them? Tell me the science you can use. Tell me the science that President William Ruto is going to use to unite people. So you see the criticism is facing is based on Mama Mboga. You told us, you told Mama Mboga, you saw the other Mama Mboga who had prayed for William Ruto being stopped from attending a church service. The president himself had done what? Had come to attend. So the criticism is going to get even heavy. You told us maybe the bottom up. We are starting from down, we're going up. Now, with the increase of prices, you know, it would seem that bottom up, it was a narrative. Maybe it does not exist. It does not maybe perhaps exist. Now, how you went to convince us? You know, at times, maybe convince those who voted him in 2022 that's going to work for sure. But now you're president. 1 year with prices moving high and high. How are Kenyans going to listen to you now that everything, you know, hii ni kama kudanganya mtoto. You're telling them that bottom up is to move from down, we're going up. And then the price of sugar may be increasing. Price of fuel increasing. Now, what's the definition for bottom?
That's a very
So it
interesting
becomes,
question.
and maybe the last thing there before you move on, talking about we expect him to give a state release. You know, something can be well tailored. I know at times the president himself cannot be involved in making
The speech.
What's going to say.
Yeah.
It's going to be ready made. So instead of giving us facts, they might exaggerate. And actually, that's what will be happening. They'll be telling us that we've tried to do this, but let them also look on what they have failed to achieve. So President William Ruto, I know he will never come up to Kenyans and tell them that, you know, you good people, you voted me in, but this and this I cannot manage to do. He cannot tell Kenyans.
Annually, and this will be President Ruto's first State of the Nation address since he got into office. Of course, as Emmanuel has said, we're expecting plenty of issues to be addressed, including, of course, the successes as well as the failures of the Kenya Kwanza government since it got into power, as well as other issues that I'm sure Kenyans as well as other politicians are eager to hear, because Kenyans are always eager to hear the State of the Nation address because they feel like change is coming, you know. So most definitely issues about corruption, issues about employment, the cost of living, affordable housing, of course. Those are some of, or housing, I could say, are some of the issues that probably Kenyans are expecting. And most of all, of course, is the cost of living, because it's something that saw Kenyans go to the streets, number one, that saw even the commencement of the national bipartisan talks that are almost being concluded, as well as that has seen plenty of Kenyans, plenty of leaders, even from UDA, as well as Azimio Umoja, actually come up and every time Heshimiwa Ruto stood up and made a promise, you know. And in the spirit of promises, of course, Career Day was today. And I just want us to listen to the president, that is William Ruto. And then we'll be back to talk about, of course, number one, the Auditor General's added powers, as well as how Kenyans, or how you as a Kenyan are going to be involved in the bottom up, of course, budget, that is 2024-2025?
Far from now. Because if everybody paid their bit, we would not need all the fiscal deficits that we have. If everybody paid their bit. There is still a lot of money out there. There are still many people who are not paying tax. Slowly but surely we will speak to them, we will talk to them, we will encourage them, we will work with them until we all pay tax. That's all we need to do. The rest can be achieved. So, and as I have said, it doesn't have to be punitive. It doesn't have to amount to harassment, but we must be firm, we must be decisive, and everybody must keep their part of the bargain. And that is my encouragement to all of us as Kenyans, that our independence, our sovereignty is when we can manage our own affairs, when we can meet all our obligations, when we can pay for all the services that are due to us and fund all that we need in Kenya. And I am very confident that that is doable if we do this together. We will continue to work with all the other stakeholders. We will continue to leverage on technology. I'm very happy with what I see around the technology space. The taxes that are now being collected using technology, as I said earlier, we are looking at up to 400% increase in taxes in ourselves out of the appetite for debt all over the place. Let me also say that we are making significant progress with our diplomatic relations, engagement with our development partners, engagement with multilateral development banks. We are making a lot of progress with our DFIs, the engagement between government of Kenya and the understanding of what is required of us and what our obligations are and what our commitments are very progressive. I want to commend Treasury for leading the way, working with our multilateral development partners, working with our bilateral development partners to make sure that we secure the interests of Kenya and make sure that we are pushing on our progress and in a way that is transparent, accountable, and in a progressive manner so that we can unlock the huge potential that exists in our country. I want to tell every Kenyan listening to me that we have a great country. And this country is going to go places. Calibrate their place, make their contribution, look at the opportunities that are available, appropriate those opportunities.
Yes, and most definitely that was the president while attending the KRA Day or the Taxpayers Day at the coast of Kenya. And most definitely among the things that we can see right now Kenyans are actually suffering from is the constant taxation, and this is some of the issues that most people were expecting the president to actually touch on or probably reduce some of the taxes that have been imposed on Kenyans. And of course, we also saw from his speech that the Auditor General has actually been added powers, of course, now to be able to at least scrape corruption. Oh my God! Or fight corruption. The words don't want to come out of my mouth, but. Number one on the list, for example, we have seen, if we compare this current government to the previous government and the tax collection systems that are there, we have seen obviously an increase in the amount of tax that has been collected in Kenya right now, ranging from to around Moses was saying to around 3.2 billion, 0.2 trillion, something of the sort. And of course, kama wa Kenya, for example, they have been crying over constant taxation. Those who are employed have been crying that almost nearly half of their salary or quarter of their salary is going into taxes. Every single day you wake up, a new tax is actually put or introduced to the system. Is this the way to restore Kenya's economy, number one, as earlier planned? Or are Kenyans going to continue being poorer as long as Kenya keeps on taxing ule mama mboga, ule mtu wa bodaboda, yani in the spirit of the bottom up?
People will want to try and use all means possible to evade, not to pay taxes. Some indirect taxes are not what the government wants.
No.
And actually, in most cases, it's very difficult to escape paying indirect taxes. Now, with the point of taxation, actually, we need to have a way by the taxation system is clear to the point that everyone is willing to say that give Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give God what belongs to God.
No.
But where you have a scenario that Kenyans are coming up online, giving them basic and net salary, removing the taxes, and you find out that the amount being taxed is more than what remains in the accounts, then it brings a burden. And with inflation rates going up, then put money in circulation. One of the reasons that will make even this economic problem to continue rising is that we are experiencing a continued weakening of Kenyan shilling. So we see that those commodities that are being imported to a country, they're being bought on high prices. Those commodities that we're producing as a country, they are maybe average or low in sale. So you're finding out that this price is going to shift according to the supply of the dollar. So when the dollar supply is limited, the dollar is being strengthened. So when we hear people talking about what's happening in a country, that money in shilling, Kenyan shilling is weakening. So dollars are being strengthened. And that's why you've seen others trying to say, why are we then not being paid in dollars? The wage bill for Kenyan, it should be around 14,000, 14 to 15,000. Now, roughly, let's say that there are many people who are paid, but they don't reach the wage bill.
No.
There are many people who are employed, but they don't even reach 5,000 a month. And the wage bill that which should be average in poor Kenyans should be around 15,000. But when you find that,
12.
you will confirm. So you find out they don't reach the exact wage bill that's being estimated. So by this, you find out that that's why many Kenyans would rather want to move out of our country and go out, struggle there, and maybe look for a better life there, other than remaining in Kenya where the Kenyan shilling is weakening. Weakening means you can earn even 500, but what 500 can do is only buy one packet of unga. Then you don't have anything else remaining with you. So when you find out the weakening of Kenyan shilling and more taxation, we don't have an economy. We are going to have a crisis. And when we're going to have this crisis, this will happen. The government trying to sort out the crisis will want to print more shillings in Kenyan circulation. And by printing it, you've had in Zimbabwe other times, you used to carry money with a gunia going to buy a bread. And the taxation team, at times you need to listen to Wanjiku. At times you need to come to the ground and listen. They don't buy things. Even the police canteen, which people used to take advantage of, even things there are gone high. So you find out that the government corporations that people used to take advantage, maybe using their relatives. You find out that maybe someone is a police officer, and the relatives want you to take advantage of the canteens and purchase things for them in surplus. So you find out that even there things are now not working. Now, where we heading as a country, our economy is very, fast. The inflation rate is increasing. As much they want to condemn COVID-19, is this increasing from 2020, 2021, 2022, now 2023. Talk about the GDP. Talk about the money supply. So today, in as much of the things I had, again you want to tax now them with going to inherit that might find even a bad economy. So, but on the same, we want to say that high taxation and double taxation is killing even the morale for people to work. People even say, why should I work? And the government is taking all I make. So they will resort other means to survive. Other means for survival.
Very much.
Yeah.
And you've actually mentioned something about formulating, of course, the budget, or to give their take as well as their input on the budget. So, number one, how good of an idea is this? And number two, how impactful will it be once or if the common Mwananchi is actually involved in this bottom-up economic transformation agenda budget that is going to be formulated?
You're saying about involving our Kenyan. At times, it's a mere lie. How many policies have we seen public participation? How many? The policy making formulations. So, in as much they know the importance of involving the Kenyans, they know it's well in the constitution. Both houses, the assembly and the Senate, know the importance of having public participation. But where you have a rigged public participation process, whereby you do public participation that's not involving everyone, you run up and say that you've done public participation. We move on and we claim that we've done public participation. But for sure, you don't have public participation in ground. So I don't know who advised the government that public participation is coming and taking photos, is coming and doing something or one or two events. Then, I've come to realize, especially those seeking jobs, and when you go even to public websites, even the public websites for the government, what you'd be going and finding is that you find photos, dates, saying that we did this and this event. It's rare for you to find invitations that you've been invited to come and attend this and this. You will not see it, but you'll see that we did this and this on this date, and then you'll be 100. The selection of demography, if you want to hear the voice of the youth, if you want to hear the voice of Mama Bogas, you've reminded me, yesterday there's this clip that was happening in Meru, whereby the Mama Bogas of Meru were defending Kawira Mwangaza. And then the one speaking on behalf of them, he was a man. Alikuwa amefunga kilemba. So I was wondering, when did men become Mama Boga?
Baba Mboga. Hustle ni hustle. Vera ni vera.
No, how?
But there are there very many.
No, yes, I know they are there, but the term Mama Boga. It's like Wanjiku, a female name that has been used to generalize everyone who is hustling. And then you get to understand that this public participation and involvement, first, one, how can you involve Kenyans on something they don't even have trust with? How do you tell Kenyans that you want you to participate in bottom up, something that they are criticizing? We want to be realistic and genuine at times. Kenyans all over don't believe in bottom up. They don't. It's only President Ruto and his political advisory team that brought him to this mess. At times, even the president himself, is not a believer in what he's preaching. He's preaching bottom up, but he does not practice bottom up. How can you preach bottom up to Kenyans while you are double taxing them? How do you preach bottom up to Kenyans and people of this country while you're bringing and putting life to be more unbearable to them? And then now you want to involve them. You know what would be? Unbiased decision.
But many people say sacrifice now and enjoy later. It's like for the next generation.
No. No. There's a difference between wasting time and being patient. How can you suffer and suffer? Kenyans have suffered. They suffered under Jomo Kenyatta, under Daniel Moi. Kibaki brought somehow relief to Kenyans. It's when many millionaires turned to billionaires. Uhuru Kenyatta tried the first time. The handshake came with COVID-19. William Ruto is when billionaires are getting back to millionaires. Millionaires going back to thousands. Someone with 1,000 is winning that less than 100 a day. People don't make even $1, even $1. And you want to tell us we want you to participate in bottom up. But again, not being a government sympathizer. If President in Kenya Kwanza really believe in what they are doing, first then they should understand on the main pillars of economy. They should be talking about rent. Rent and land, they're the same.
Yeah,
They should be talking about manufacturing. They should be talking about employment. So if you talk about employment, about skilled and unskilled, people getting employment, people getting their rewards of assets that the country have. Maybe talking about if people want to invest their money, which interest are you going to give them? People are even fearing investing their money in a bank because the interest that they want to get at the end of the year is like a mere waste to them. So when the government will sort out this and then preach bottom up, and then now maybe
housing is actually has come to Kenyans. But earlier on, we had seen President Ruto actually, now that is during his reign with Uhuru Kenyatta, talk about this affordable housing is actually, or the main aim is creating employment opportunities, number one. And number two, we have seen obviously people being evicted from different areas and different lands. And number three, every single time the president is visiting the different parts of Kenya, he has this statement where he says, ama mnachagua jembe kweli? Talking about offering employment, of course, or creating employment to the youth through affordable housing, And you mentioned something about NYS being actually the future, for example, of employment. Now, with this housing initiative by the Kenya Kwanza government, number one, how long lasting can it be for the youth, considering the fact that once the house is built, that work is done, compared to sweeping the streets, which is something that can happen on a daily basis. Number two, how much of a scam or how much of a success do you see this affordable housing actually being, or what good is going to come out of it?
Let me start by answering the first question. Based on the fact that we have high population, whereby the number of youths is increasing.
No.
And when we have number of youths increasing, they are skilled youths. So you find out that graduates from universities having pursued different courses and anything, and they will come out. And then you don't have jobs to give them. And then the alternative that I was giving them is to move to labor. And maybe the ones who could be comfortable with it are the ones from TBS. Now that's what they've specialized in, and they're able to deliver there. So with the increased youths, the number of youths is going to be even a threat to you in administration. You've seen how they've taken the government on matters health. I don't know if they released the money to the instantly.
On this, they said
they were to release it. I don't know.
On the 7th.
So if they've not released the money to accounts, and I'm happy that we've seen where youths are coming out. With the current university leaderships, They're coming up even demanding for the government to do what it had promised itself.
No.
So when they're being taken on demand, they should not come and threaten youths. And for reformations all over the world, they're not old people who bring reformations. They are not illiterate people who bring reformations. Go and do research. The likes of Martin Luther the King, the many reforms that you've seen in the world, they're being brought up by university youth students, of course, who majority are youth. So with this kind of demography that we're building as a country, maybe in the next few years, when we're going to have even youthful leaders coming to vie for presidency. Now let's have a look, maybe Babu Wino goes for presidency seat, as at now. And with this current, the thing he'll preach, he will not preach as against them. He will preach the time years of done. And just see how many Kenyans we have in the council.
No.
See, the government, in as much it has been telling us that it's time for youth, it's something going to be risky again for them. When they have the majority and someone to lead them, they'll kick you out of office very easily.
No.
This narrative of running in state house, wanting the favors of the government, at times don't work. Raila Odinga was in government just before 2020 elections. He was with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta was promising him every night that, my brother, this thing I'm going to give it to you. This thing I will not give it to a thief. This thing, this word, it's you, my brother, I'm going to give. Did it materialize?
Table stand, of course.
So these youths, that maybe they are telling that we give you a gem. We went to give you Wi-Fi. We went to open up hubs in every ward. Oh, let them gang up against you. You will find it hard. And when you find it hard, this housing, there are many, in as much it could be about class, but what I know, the private sector has done much in helping the government over and much of money taxes. They are not even taxed. Those who brought up housing structures and those who have a good knowledge about the real estate can tell that much of the government should tax them, it does not tax them. Because one, it's the role of the government to ensure that there is affordable housing.
No.
But when you have failed, and someone has come in, has helped you to do that, with the as the government, you are in a big trouble. You are in a very big trouble until you sort it out. So one of the things that the government could have done is, imagine, launch the many housing projects. You've seen President in launching a housing project. And when, I hear one of our guests here term everything by government cartels.
No.
And I want to start even believing that they're cartels. You're finding out that no wonder if you get his speeches, you find few speeches. President Kibaki, 10 years. Get President Ruto, 1 in office.
No.
A lot of speeches. Many speeches. And maybe lastly on a housing project.
No.
If the government is at your power, and the Kenyans will be happy with Kenya Power.
No.
When you are, they can also privatize the housing project. Come up, partner with companies that are able to do what? Housing programs. Now, and this one, I think it will be even help the government very easily. Find out the regions that are really suffering. Maybe the Nairobi CBD and the Nairobi at large. Get to coast Mombasa. Get to where there's high population. Launch the housing project. Give it to public companies. Partner with it. Be it maybe 50%, 50%. I want to tell you that less than 3 years. So that maybe by the next 10 or 15 years, someone has paid for this house into completion. So that those coming would have their own home. So I think, and maybe you are following, you could agree that private companies at times, they do a private sector. In GDP, it's comprising of 70%. Family businesses are employing people. Small companies are employing people more than what a government can do.
right.
So I think even I summarize that is that if the housing problem has become a threat to the government, and for sure it is, we don't have money to launch every program in every county. Why don't you partner with private companies? Tell them these are deal. Let me invest 50%, invest 50%.
No.
Profits come, we divide them 50%, 50%,
No.
or an agreeable percentage that they will want to agree. So those houses that they have built that no one has been able to afford, make them affordable now, so that it's going to be paid. And many Kenyans will agree by that and will even not have a class. They first, this one will work out to see that an end of class. An end of class is whereby a poor person and middle class, if it exists, I don't know if they will have middle class, but they're able to afford their houses. Maybe in Karen, where you have a mix. The problem we have with politicians, and I've told you many times, they don't see people in Kibera as Kenyans.
No.
They see them as voters. When a politician comes to any event and you come in large numbers, they don't see you as Kenyans. They don't see your assumption. They don't see the problem you're having. The only thing they see you as voters. When they see you as voters, they do the necessary. They dish out money to you. And the worst of all that I was almost forgetting is that how can you sort out the housing project while you the government, is the one handling the housing project? You find out that those in government are the ones building houses. First, they've invested a lot of money. So even in policy making, it will be biased. Because first, they will look at it in a business angle. That I've invested this and this amount of money. How am I going to recover this money? So first, we will step down on the truth until we recover money. Until then, we are in the next election. Until then, housing program is a history. So we'll have to get time, I think, and research more about the housing project, what President Uhuru did under housing programs, what President Ruto is doing under housing, and maybe what will happen.
Come out of it. Most definitely. And of course, what we have discussed today on the Q&A table, of course, number one on the list was Ruto's first State of the Nation address, which you're expecting. And of course, what are your expectations of this State of the Nation address? What are some of the things or some of the issues that you are expecting the president to actually talk about or to address? We've also touched on the issue of affordable housing, with some people saying affordable, as well as the auditor in general, of course, the office now being able to actually handle corruption issues. And that is how we are, of course, winding it up right here on the Q&A table. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us. And to our viewers, thank you so much for keeping us keeping us company, as well as allowing us to keep you company. Most definitely keep on following this and many more conversations right here on the Kenya News Alert TV YouTube page, as well as on Facebook, that is Channel 7 News TV East Africa. And from us to you, we are saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.